Morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Mandy Conley.
All right, it's kind of long, so I might not get asked to do this ever again. Okay. Give me strength not to be better than my enemies, but to defeat my greatest enemy, the doubts within myself. Give me strength for a straight back and clear eyes, so when life fades as the setting sun, my spirit may come to you without shame. Give me strength to continue to push on, to work toward my goals, and to be gentle toward myself in times of failure. Give me the courage to stand up for what is right and to get out of bed each day, especially when the day seems bleak. Give me the patience to be compassionate and helpful towards others and myself, and to know when it is best to remain quiet. Give me the clarity to be grateful for all that I have and to realize when I have something to give to others. Give me the capacity to love and forgive others, especially the ones who have wronged me. Give me the serenity to find happiness and peace in each day. Give me the knowledge to take responsibility for my mistakes and the ability to let go of things and people who no longer help me grow. And most of all, let me have the intelligence to realize that most of these traits are already within me. Give me the strength, curiosity, and courage to find them within myself and others. Amen.
Thank you, Mandy. And not seeing the guy that said he would lead us in the pledge and four-way test today, I will do that. But please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will build goodwill and better friendships. And fourth, will be beneficial to all concerned. And now to introduce our guests, Chris Barker.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. So I hope I don't miss any of our guests. I will not announce our speakers today because they'll get their own introduction. But we have joining us Pat Myers. We all know her well. She's from the Hudson Clock Tower Rotary. She's past district governor in 2021, and she is a vice governor now for 2023. Thank you, Pat. It's nice to see you. And then we also have Barbara Mars Hall. She's from Three Rivers, Michigan, and she's an education administrator. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed today's meeting.
Thank you, Chris. And our president, Father Joe Boisel.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. A few announcements to begin with. The first one is that we have a board meeting that will be immediately following this meeting. So all Rotarians are welcome to stay, but all board members are expected to stay. So please plan to be here for that. In a fortnight from now, the 26th of October, there's a gala committee meeting that will meet presumably, where's Maryland, right after this meeting. So on October 26th, gala committee begins. Wow, it's going to be here quick, isn't it? Yeah, it just moves around right away. So yeah, everyone's welcome to join that. During October, we are gathering items for Haven of Rest Ministries. Men's and women's socks are especially needed. Haven of Rest does a fantastic work with homeless people and providing them shelter and needed supplies. So if you can be part of that, they also welcome cash donations. So yeah, those would be welcome. A special shout out to Tom Tobin, who is Tom in here today? He's not. He was he showed up to help with the weeding of the pollinator garden. So Tom and I cleared out quite a bit of weeds over there. We got a mix up with the clock tower group. Expected us earlier. Why would they expect us earlier? You should expect us later. We should always be later. No, it was great that they showed up as well. So we appreciate that. I think that's all that I have. Any other announcements that I'm forgetting? If not, I think, is David coming to introduce? No, he's not. Well, Mr. Governor, I guess I get to introduce you in that case. We have today with us David Jones, who is our district governor. He was born in New Mexico, grew up as a military brat, and opportunity lived in 5 states and 4 countries, including Spain, Japan, Germany, and England. He graduated from is that Hayford, Upper Hayford, American High School in England. David moved back to Ohio from Washington State, completed his undergraduate work in mathematics education, from Capital University. David attended Ashland University and received a master's in in educational administration and a master's in curriculum and instruction and his school superintendent's license. David, an adjunct professor for Ashland University, and taught high school and math at Madison Local Schools and Ontario Local Schools in Richland County, Ohio. David worked as a director of building operations and technology for the Summit Educational Service Center in Summit County before retiring after 32 years in education. David and his wife, Georgean, reside in Stow and have 4 adult children. David is a member of the Northampton-Cuyahoga Valley Rotary Club and served as a club president. He's a member of the club's board of directors, scholarship committee, foundation chair, and grant committee. At the district level, David is an alumnus of Leadership 6630, class of 2016, and he served as the District 6630 Foundation Stewardship Chair. David served as on to Hamburg and on to Honolulu. That sounds like a good one. On to Taipei, chair for the Rotary International Convention, and continues to serve in planning committee for the district conference and clubs. He's proud and honored to serve the District 6630 as the governor for the 2022-2023 Rotary Year. So let us give a warm Rotary welcome to our district governor, David Jones. Good to have you.
I am excited about being here this morning, and thank you for the introduction. It's a little longer than I am comfortable with, but as we all are Rotarians, we always are happy to do what we do without all the accolades, and I do appreciate that introduction. Thank you, Joe. As it was mentioned, I did grow up throughout the world, and one of the things my dad, who was in the Air Force for over 30 years, tried to teach us and help us to understand is that as Americans living in different countries, we always have to put up a good face. We have to make sure that we're the ones putting out service and behaving. As young kids, you were behaving. But at the same time, they tried to teach us what's right and wrong. And one of the things that my dad always stated was that you have to be able to, if we go to the 4-way test, tell the truth at all times, no matter what the consequences. And that was the way that I was raised, and you have to try and follow that. He taught us to make sure that we were providing service to our communities. And that service is what Rotary is all about. Now, why do I mention that? A lot of people don't understand that Rotary is out there as a service organization, and you all know that. You have a long history of that. Matter of fact, you are looking forward to your 100th year here soon. And I know that that's an exciting time for this club, as well as everyone that has been here in the past. But one of the things we learn is how do we to become adaptable. Who would have ever thought about COVID? I was on the Hamburg chair. I appreciated that. That was the last time we were in person for a Rotary International Conference. I did those other conference chairs, but those were on Zoom. Pat, I'm sorry. During her period of time, she didn't get the opportunity to visit, and it's a tragedy because I'm truly enjoying my time and visiting. But at the same time, we have to learn to be adaptable. And that's another thing that I learned from the military. Be adaptable. Understand that you have to make and accept the changes that are put in front of you and just move on. And that's one thing that I think us as Rotarians are always willing to do. We adapt to the environment, we adapt to the situations, and we adapt to the needs of our community. One of the things I have to stress and thank, though, are all the positive mentors that we've had in our lives. If you think about all the individuals that you have mentored yourself or have been mentored by, I think that's an important honor that we need to have for them. I had a student, this has been maybe 10 years ago now, reach out to me and thank me for how I treated him and helped him in high school when I was a high school math teacher. And, for a moment there, I had to stop and think, what did I do that was different than I did any other child that impacted this young man? And when he explained it to me, just being able to listen to him, to help him through his times, that makes an impact. So I was a leader for that person, and we are leaders for others as well. And that's something we have to honor. So I want to thank those district leaders such as Pat and Bev and John Laird. I've talked with him, John Reyes. They're all leaders in our communities that help us, and we follow that along. One of the things that was mentioned is that Georgean and I are husband and wife now of 3 years as of next month. That's exciting. We've known each other for a very long time, but we just recently got married, and I still say 3 years ago is recent because it seems like it's a whole new experience. And I thank her for being here with me this morning. And thank you, George. But one of the things that we have to consider is where we're going to go. And one of the themes that my sister, Jennifer Jones, and I can prove it, I'm right there with her. So my sister stated in one of her statements was, imagine a world that deserves our best, where we get up each day knowing that we can make a difference. But the difference has to come from us. We have to make that decision. We know we can make a difference, but how can we make that difference if we don't step out and do something? And that's Rotary. So for 117 years, Rotary has always had a president, but Jennifer is the very first female president in that 117 years. And that's an exciting time. That brought in a lot of new members into Rotary from women who always thought Rotary was only a men's society. And that's an exciting period. We are seeing a growth in membership. And a lot of those new members are female, and I appreciate that. So a lot of people ask me, why did I choose Rotary? How many have been in a Kiwanis? You were in a Kiwanis Club. Lions Club? Knights of Columbus? There's a bunch of them, right? So was I. But how did I land in Rotary? A lot of people don't understand that I actually did not join Rotary until 2014. If you count that, that's only 8 years. So why am I up here? That's a good question. Why am I up? Pat, can you answer that question? So, well, one of the things that I did early on, because Rotary, as I said, when I went and visited the Northampton Club, I was there to speak. And in that speaking process, I got to know that club. But I also got to know what Rotary was about. I got to know what the four-way test was about. And that all fit with my ethics and the way I was raised. And that became a passion for me. So in 15, I actually attended the district conference. And at that district conference, they were paying an audiovisual company. And you have to. If you don't have the skills, you have to pay for the experience that you need. You have to pay for those services that you need. But when I found out they were charging $12,000 for 2 days for audiovisual, which was projectors and sound systems, I was like, you know what? That's a skill that I have. At that time I was working, the place that I worked had all the equipment. So one of the things I did say was to the conference, say, I have those skills, I have the equipment. From this point on, I will do that for you for free. Why should we be paying that amount of money? So since 2015, I've been doing that for the district conference. So you might have seen me running around if you were there, handing people microphones and getting things ready, or I'm behind a curtain. But it's a skill that we have, and I'm honored to be able to do that. And that's something that we have to do with our skills. We have to put those skills available, whether it's in a mentoring capacity or a skill that we have with regard to our finance committee or membership committee, out there to try and help out. So another thing that we trend to do is we have continuity. Leadership continuity is very important for our district. I mean, that's why we have a district governor-elect, nominee, designate, and a vice chair, because that continuity helps us to stay consistent for our membership. And the clubs tend to do the same thing. You have a continuity for your president-elect, and you may even have a vice president who's 3 years out so that they can start to learn that. So one of the things that we try to do in that continuity is also, of course, our district strategic plan. And the strategic plan outlines the things that we would like to see happen over the next 3 to 5 years. So as a district governor, I need to recognize and honor those in the past that created that the strategic plan, and recognize that those are goals that improve our district. And even though I have some goals that I would like to have accomplished, I have to honor those goals as well. And that's one of the things we try to do. We don't want to wipe out everything that's happened in the past. So what are some of those goals? Well, first off, on membership, I had a goal of increasing our membership by 200. Notice I didn't say new members by 200. I said increasing our membership by 200. So you might say, well, what does that mean? Well, over COVID, we lost a lot of members. They stepped away. I'm not going to say they left. They stepped away. They weren't liking Zoom. They weren't liking not being able to be in person or have service into the community. So one of the things I've been encouraging clubs to do is invite those individuals back for breakfast. You might see them at the grocery store. You might have a 5-minute talk, but invite them back for breakfast and just say, hey, you know what? We miss you. We'd like to have you come and just join us for breakfast. We'd love to have and hear about what's going on in your family. And we've had some clubs do that, and some of those members come back and some of them don't, because they find out what they've missed. Another, of course, is to try and bring in new members. Joe was telling me just recently you have 2 new members, and that's great. We have to grow with new members too. Younger people who can help us out. We are an aging group, but it's not just us. All those other service organizations I spoke about are also having membership issues. But that can't be our only drive. Our other drive, of course, is service. Since COVID, we stopped some of the services. Many clubs continued certain types of services as long as it was safe. But even now, we're still trying to come back and rebuild those relationships with the partners and organizations that we've worked with in the past. And we want to continue that service. I wish your club could do more service. I don't know how you do all that you do already. So when I ask you to do something else in service, I don't know how I can ask you that. Your scout cabin project that's going on, Arts on the Green, Memorial Day Parade, youth services and substance abuse prevention program, your duck race. I can name a bunch of stuff that you guys have done for service over the recent times, and you're getting ready to do your gala again because you have certain projects that you want to try and fund. So again, how do I ask you to do any more service? What I'm going to do is just make a suggestion that you just try to maybe get with a foster care or the social services agency and maybe do birthday bags. Just create some birthday bags that basically have a cake mix, icing, a gift for a certain age group, and all the little birthday surprise stuff. Because a lot of those foster care individuals don't necessarily get a good birthday, and now we can actually provide them with a bag. With childcare, that's a little more difficult. How about just going in and doing a morning of reading? Just go in, and if they allow it, do their reading for their reading period. Could also be at your elementary or kindergarten. Do something like that. Partner with other service organizations. We have many of our Rotary clubs, because they are smaller, are now partnering. The Aurora Club is partnering with their VFW because the VFW has lost members as well. And they have certain things that they're doing. So together, I wear my Rotary shirt, you wear your VFW shirt, and we're providing service to our community, whether it's for the VFW or for the Rotary. You could do that with the Quanans or the Lions. We've had a lot of Kiwanis clubs in the last year have closed because they've gotten small, same as we are. We're still all struggling. One of the things I'd like to encourage is maybe go to your local orphanage. Summit County has an orphanage down here, and at Christmas time, they always have a big Christmas tree with the kids' names on it. Maybe as a club, you could choose one name and fulfill that child's Christmas gifts. So small things for the community, just as other little projects that you might consider. One thing I would like to encourage is for public image. You guys do so much. That's why I said, I see you do so much. Help us help you. Send your information, send your stories, send your pictures. How many have been to our website recently? RotaryDistrict6630.org. We've changed the main page. That page is for us to try and push out what's going on in our clubs, what's happening in our district. And that's all I want on the front page. I want stories about what's happening in service and what's happening at our clubs. And I would encourage you to try and send some of those pictures, even if it's a silly one, for us to put in that upper banner or complete story to put down below for other Rotarians to read. Get it into our newsletter. We're always looking for stories in our newsletter. Of course, the last thing, and you guys have a great foundation here at the Hudson Club. Talking this morning about the foundation and some of the things you're doing. Last year, or I'm going to say in July, we usually do it in August or September, but we did have our Guardians game. I finally said it right. Still trying to get out of that Indians set. We did have our Guardians game for in polio now. We had a great event. We had over 300 people there, and not only from our district, Youngstown, the Rotary Club of Youngstown sent 12 people, and now they're talking about bringing a bus next year. So they're really trying to increase that because they had such a good time. 6,600, we had Rotarians from the district to our west, and they had a great time. And we had a lot of our own Rotarians there. In that process, we raised $6,000 for polio. And that was just on our gift bags and the sale of tickets. And that was a fantastic fundraiser. Of course, we have our district foundation as well. We know that if we're donating to the Rotary Foundation, every 3 years, we get us half that money back, and those go to local grants. I'm sorry that you guys were not accepted for a local grant this year. I thought it was pretty good, but there were a few things that didn't meet with regard to what Rotary specifies as being needed for that grant. If you have questions on that stuff, please give us a call. We can help you mold some of that, and it makes a big difference. So help us help you. You can always call me, and I know several Rotarians have. One of my things for this year is to raise the Paul Harris Fellows in a club by 5. Now, that doesn't mean they have to be brand new Paul Harris Fellows. I was looking at your foundation giving. Many of your members are like within 300 points of Paul Harris. How many have used points in the past to help out other people with Paul Harris? So foundation points, for every $1 you get 1 foundation point. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm donating 1,000 foundation points for Paul Harris for a sponsor of a new member. So if you have a new member, the sponsor of that new member is going to go into a draw, and that's going to get drawn at our district conference. So I'm donating 1,000 Paul Harris points for somebody to get a Paul Harris award at the district conference for bringing in a new member. And I'll talk more about that. I know this club is very, very good. Over your time, you've had 99 total Paul Harris Fellows at $1,000 a piece. That's a lot of donations. 19 are multiple Paul Harris, in which I saw at least 12 at a 5 or above. In other words, a Paul Harris plus 5. That's great, and I appreciate that. Your average giving right now is $92 per person. That means every person has an average giving of $92 that you've given to the foundation. And that is truly appreciated as well. So there's a lot that we try to do for our district. There's a lot that we have as goals. Many of those goals are in our strategic plan, but at the same time, we have to continue to move forward and strengthen ourselves. So one of those areas of strength that we need to try and work on is our student programs. Many of you are already familiar with the youth exchange. It's back. We had kids come to us from other countries this year, and we have 6 of them. And you'll get to meet them at the district conference. They're very active, and they're from a lot of different countries, including South Korea, which we have not had in a while. 4-way test is back. The 4-way test is going to be held here in Summit County, and the Port Summit Club is in charge of the 4-way test this year. And the 4-way test will be held at Springfield High School here in Summit County. And then RILA. We did have RILA this last summer. Rotary Youth Leadership Awards is a great program for young leaders from high schools. And this year we only had 30 campers, although we can handle 60. Part of that was just coming back out of COVID, first part of June, because it happens in June. And there were some individuals that didn't feel comfortable being in that sort of situation, and that's understandable. But we did have 30, and that's great. And hopefully next year we can get the whole 60. So help us with those types of programs. I know that you guys have participated in the past, and we'd love to see you participate in the future. I'm going to open it up to questions. Thank you. No question? Yes, sir. Oh, here.
Thank you very much for coming today. I'm happen to be a real fan of the Paul Harris Society. We have something unusual here that I don't know whether the other clubs are doing it. And that is we will subsidize with the club 50% of an entrance to Paul Harris Society. So an individual can come in, contribute $500, the club will come $500. Person is now Paul Harris. Is that done around the country very much?
Actually, that's growing. That's what my club did in Jim McKee's year to become an all Paul Harris club, because we had some folks that were not quite there. And in that year, we had other people donate points. And by the time we were done with that year, all of our Rotarians were Paul Harris.
That's wonderful.
But yeah, and that's my encouragement. That's why I said you have quite a few people that are within 300 points. And whether you use those points to help them get their next Paul Harris or split it 50-50. And in my club, we're doing the 50-50 to try and help. Now, we do have some young Rotarians that, 50-50 for them, they only have 200 points in already,
Yeah.
or $200. That's a stretch for them. So for those individuals, if they'll donate 100, because we're all 100 donations. So every member of my club donates $100. That's given straight out. That's part of our dues. But over top of that, if they donate an additional $100, then we will give them the rest of the points through our club to get them that first Paul Harris.
Is there anybody from our club here can tell me where people stand with the Paul Harris in terms of the points?
I can give you that information before.
You can?
Yes,
That
sir.
would be great if we could get that. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
David, maybe you tell us a little bit about this job that you have. What's the best thing about being district governor? What's the most difficult part about being a district governor?
Well, the best thing is getting out and meeting people at the clubs, moving around the different areas. And just like, I know folks in your club, so getting to see them again, but then also getting to meet the new members and talk about things that we've done. Meeting other Rotarians. 2 weeks ago, I was down at Rotary Zone. Zone is where they send all the district governor lines and leadership down for training. And, we've done that in the past on Zoom, but what we miss on Zoom is the interaction. Sure, you can talk to us, we can talk back to you, but after that hour, you're done. Well, down in Chattanooga where we were, you miss out on all that other opportunity to sit with somebody and get to know who they are. Get to know their lives, their passions, and how they're doing things in their districts. And that was a very good time. You know, most people think, oh, you're just sitting having dinner and having drinks, but no, when you start meeting with other people, it does make a difference. There was one evening, my wife and I, everybody was seated for dinner. When we went in, there weren't two seats together. So she sat at one table, I sat at another, and everybody was like, oh, no, you guys got to sit together, we'll move. And it's like, no, you sit over there, I'll sit over here. And I'll tell you that she'll be honest. It was great because she talked to them and I talked to the other group, and it wasn't just me talking to a group and her not interacting. So she got a lot out of that and they got a lot out of her. So that was a good time for us. Difficult parts are some of the topics that pop up. We've had 2 issues where a club called and asked what the rules were for removing a member. They had a long-term member who all of a sudden is sort of turned on the club and is talking the club down, especially to sponsors in the community who they've worked with in long-term. And it's not fair for what that person's saying. So they're going to ask that person to leave because they're not meeting the ethical standards or the requirements of the club. And of course, that is up to the club and their bylaws. That's not up to the district, but you know, you still have to have those hard conversations. But so far this year, we've not had anything too far out there that's been distressful or any issues that way. Working on new crisis management plan. Rotary International does require that all districts have a crisis management plan. We have one or had one in the past. It is not a good one. So that's been a big push for us this year, is making sure we have a crisis management plan in place. And most people would say, well, why do we need one? Because we as Rotarians and adults know what to do in a crisis situation, but we forget. In an event like this here, and I'm going to mention, we were at All Ohio Pets last year, and there was a crisis that happened. Nobody could find an AED because we thought maybe the guy was having a heart attack. He didn't. Fortunately, he had a seizure, but nobody could find an AED. Other issue is a lot of the people that were working that didn't speak English. So when you were trying to ask for something, they didn't understand what you were saying. In a crisis management plan, we would have had that already in place. So somebody to step up and say, okay, in your gala, while we're at that hotel, where's the AED? Because it's not always right where the conference center is. It might be back in the office. So that's just the little steps. We know we need to think about that, but sometimes we don't. And the crisis management plan is just going to be a reminder of some of those minor things. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you. I do have a few reminders. Foundation Gala is coming up on November 17th. That's going to be at Windows on the River, and we're not doing an ugly Christmas sweater this year. But we are having a dessert dash, and we are going to have fun because it's going to be more of a casual event and no dress up and no ties and things like that. Just on November 17th. And that's at Windows on the River in Cleveland. Interaction is back. So all of our Interact students are going to be meeting at Stow Monroe Falls High School on November 19th. And that's going to be from 11:30 to 4:30. So that's sort of a district conference for all Interact students. And it is a great little conference for that short period of time. And I've attended the last 3 at least that they've had in person. We had one in person this last year. It was not well attended, but we did have 5 schools participate. Hopefully this year we'll have all 12 Interact schools participate for the Stow one. District conference is already on the books. So it's going to be April 28th through and the 29th. That's going to be at the Cleveland Marriott. So it's not too far from here. I mentioned the 4-way speech test or 4-way test speech contest. Port Summit is running that. It will be early April. They're still trying to set the date. And again, that's going to be at Springfield High School for that contest. And then, of course, Ryla, Mark West has done an excellent job. He's agreed to stay on for another 5 years, which is perfect because they do a great job at Baldwin Wallace University. And since he works there, he runs the program. As I said, we had 30 campers this year and we hope to have 60 next year, so double. Thank you again for having me.
Before you run off, we'll put you to work here. Choosing the Rotobuck raffle, Rotobuck raffle payout today is $9. Jackpot $217. Catherine, I said last week that we're almost to the point where Catherine Signs will, win the jackpot. So if you would pull a number for us and.
So if you ever would like to come and join us, well, actually, you wouldn't be eligible. Our pot's up to 1,200 right now.
Oh,
We do a Queen of Hearts card. So you draw, you spread out the cards and you draw. Well, we're down to about 12 cards left. So it's going to be interesting to see who wins. I'll just read numbers. Okay. 748.
last three, 748.
748.
Hold on, let me look. It's not I.
Somebody has to have 748. It's in the pot.
Oh, don't worry, we can draw again.
Oh, see, you're like me. I never check my numbers because I never win. So that's been my thing at the club. I never check my numbers. And then when nobody knows, then they'll say, Dave, did you check your tickets?
That's a good question. Right, so the plan in there. Yeah. Reach in there and pull it out. $217 for head and brush. Oh, last.
So as an ex-math teacher, how many regular balls are in there compared to the black one?
A lot.
What's the rate? What's the odds of winning? See, I got to bring my math in here. So one of the things that we do as district governors is we do bring a gift for our incoming presidents. And we always award a pair of theme socks. I didn't have mine on today, but I typically wear them when I come to speak. So you get a pair of theme socks.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
But then
I can like some more stuff.
there, yeah, see, there you go. I can even give you the ugly ones from last year because I never did open that
Yeah, bring
pack.
those out too.
Those were terrible.
Yeah.
And then we always give out an extra gift, and I decided to do coins this year. So this is a Paul Harris coin.
Oh.
And
Well, thank you
just
very
as
much.
an appreciation for doing all that you do.
Thank you very much. Thank
You
you
as
for
well,
coming.
sir.
We really appreciate you coming. Yes. Well, it looks like we have time for a, yeah, would you like more? Yeah. So a bit of a story here. This one, a series of true stories. And because I think the best ones are November 2009, then President Barack Obama hosted a state dinner for the Prime Minister of India. Black tie affair, all the stops pulled, right? And this couple, Tariq and Michaela Salashi, show up. And Michaela was a newly minted reality star, Real Housewives of something or something. And so she shows up together with her husband, and they go up to the gate at the White House, and the Secret Service say to them, "I'm sorry, but your names are not on the list." And they have some conversation. They assure that a mistake must have been made, and assurances were given, and so on and so forth. And the Secret Service says, pull up to the next gate, deal with him. So they go up to the next gate, to the next Secret Service. And again, the Secret Service agent looks at the list, says, "I'm sorry, but your names are not on the list." And there's conversation back and forth. Eventually, the Salasis are in the weapons check area. And next thing you know, they're inside the White House. And Michaela Salashi goes right up to the president and she shakes his hand And there's a photo taken of it. And the next day it goes throughout the whole world on all the news services because they were imposters. The reason their names were not on the list is because their names were not on the list. And somehow, in the most secure environment, with the most rigorous security, the most guarded human being on the planet, a pretty girl in a red dress walks right up to him and shakes his hand. But of course she did, you know, and so there you have it, walk right past security. And if it was a one-off event, good on you, Salasis, right? Well done. Way to play it smooth. April of this year, a young girl who's kind of a computer geek. She went by the name of Casey Togo Montague or something like that. She made up fake press credentials for a fake news service called White House News. And she managed to get into the White House press corps. She asked the White House press secretary over a series of like 6 weeks, 4 different questions for White House News, you know, Casey Montague for White House News, you know, and asked questions. It didn't exist. There was no White House News Service. She was totally a fabricated imposter and yet made it into the White House, into the press room, steps away from the president. A third one, go way back, 1985. Then President Ronald Reagan, in his second inauguration, there is the big, you know, at the Capitol, all the big festivities. There's a band, and the band marches after the inauguration, marches from the Capitol back to the White House. And there's this 45-year-old meter reader. His name is Robert Otta, and he's standing over by the White House, and he sees the Marine Corps band, and he just starts following them. And he follows them right into the White House. He follows them goes upstairs into the personal residence of the president. He's there for 14 minutes wandering around, looking at pictures and whatnot. One of the Secret Service agents says, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "I'm just looking around." And they said, "Are you with the Marine Corps band?" He said, "Oh, no." "Well, how did you get in here?" "Well, I just walked in with them." And he says, "I figured if I wasn't supposed to be here, somebody would have stopped me." I'm like, oh, of course they would. All these stories kind of make me think about something, and that is this, that sometimes people aren't who they say they are. There are a lot of imposters in the world. And the second thing is, if you're in charge of keeping the gate, you know, keep that in mind. But probably the most important part about that is, in a world full of imposters, it's important for us to be our authentic selves, to let the world see what authenticity, what genuine humanity looks like. And Phil, yes. I want that. I'm a cardinal in the Catholic Church. I didn't want that to get out. Thank you very much, Phil Tobin. Now I got to go be celibate. And you all make sure that you have a great day. Make a difference in somebody's life. Have a great day. Take care.